you know a little bit about interconnectedness. I recently just read Lily Analik, who did the readings in the first live stream when we did Less Than Zero. She did a thing for Vanity Fair where it was the oral history of Bennington College, where Bret Easton Ellis went to college, and Donna Tartt.
Yeah,
well, I unfortunately haven't read Donna Tartt, but I'm going to now. I've been looking at the Goldfinch just because Bret had mentioned it on the podcast, and I was like, oh, and I just didn't know enough about this. But now that I'm kind of like deep diving into it, I feel like I've missed a whole world.
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because they were kind of in the same creative writing group. I didn't really know that. I just knew that they were, knew one another, were friends or whatever. I think someone had mentioned that in passing in the past. And I read The Secret History, Donna Tartt's first book. Mm-hmm. I can't remember how many she's done, but I haven't read The Goldfinch. I'm halfway through it, but I read The Little Friend, which I also love. Mm-hmm. But The Secret History, the first one, I did that when I was at UEA in Norwich as a part of Sarah Churchwell, the Great American Novel class. And it's very similar because it takes place at college, right? And it's about this kid who sort of gets pulled into this group of super rich students who are all studying ancient Greek, ancient Greek languages, and ancient Greek culture and everything. Mm-hmm. And they get obsessed by basically performing bacchanals, these feasts or mad drinking, pagan rituals and everything. So, having not read this since way before I read that, there's a scene on page 179. Mm-hmm. When he's sort of describing, I think, the Dress to Get Screwed party. Yeah. He says here, he wasn't anywhere. He probably thought it was too uncool to come to these things anyway. But who doesn't go to the Dress to Get Screwed party? Besides that weird classics group. And they're probably roaming the countryside, sacrificing farmers and performing pagan rituals. Which is that feels very head on. I don't know if in this lovely little tribute way.
To have interspersed basically interconnected novels from a bunch of old college buddies.
Yeah, I mean,
they must have wrote it around the same time.
Secret History is published later, I think. But you can I did a creative writing when I was in Glasgow. So you're always you're working on whatever the person is working on. So I do wonder whether they were sort of giving each other feedback and
because Bret would have just published Less Than Zero, and it would have been and working on this novel in the workshops at that point.
Probably, yeah.
So she would have definitely, I guess, known a little bit about it.
I would assume so. There's a scene in the Secret History. Secret History is very different. It feels very kind of Great Gatsby in a way, because it's this kid from Palo Alto who kind of comes into this sort of rich circle of friends who he just doesn't have a frame of reference to, and he's kind of faking it among them. But there's this scene after they commit a crime where they're in at a funeral basically, and they're all, which is kind of devolves into this drug taking binge, which kind of is reminiscent of some of the scenes in here.
Yeah.